Everyone, today we'll discuss about the function of kidneys, how the urine formation takes place with the help of kidneys. So there are three main steps. First is ultrafiltration, reabsorption, and then is tubular secretion. We'll discuss all these three steps one by one. So first, in the ultrafiltration, what happens is, see in the diagram, now this is the Bowman's capsule and this is the glomerulus, which consists of your the afferent arteriole and the efferent arteriole. So the blood which flows through the glomerulus, it flows under great pressure. And why it flows under great pressure? Because the blood which is entering through the afferent arteriole, this is having the wider opening, so the blood enters through it, and when it gets filtered and when it leaves through the outgoing vessel, the efferent arteriole, that is narrow. So there is high pressure inside the glomerulus, which helps in the filtering of the blood to filter out from the glomerulus, and that filtrate afterwards passes to the renal tubule, and the filtrate which is formed here, that is known as glomerulus filtrate or glomerular filtrate. Now, because it is taking place at high pressure, a very high pressure, that is why it is known as ultrafiltration. And the fluid which is entering in the renal tubule, it consists of water, urea, salts, your glucose and other plasma solutes, all, and the remaining part in the glomerulus which enters through which leaves through the efferent arteriole, that is very thick, and the thicker part it leaves behind in the glomerulus after ultrafiltration. Next is reabsorption. Now the glomerular filtrate which is entering the renal tubule, it is not urine. It is a dilute solution which is consisting of glucose, some of the sodium salts are there. So this filtrate, when passes down the tubule, what happens is much of the water is absorbed, it is reabsorbed. See, now from here the glomerular filtrate, after the filtration, it passes into the renal tubule, into the PCT, loop of Henle and DCT. Now when it passes into the renal tubule, the reabsorption of the water along with some salts or glucose, they are reabsorbed here along with the water. Now the amount of reabsorption that takes place in the renal tubule is to that extent that it should not disturb the concentration of the blood. Means the pH and the concentration of blood should be maintained. Only that much amount of water is reabsorbed from the kidneys. If more water is reabsorbed, then it can lead to diseases also. It can be because of some if a person is suffering from disease, it can be because of that. Otherwise, only that much amount of water is absorbed, so that the concentration of blood is not disturbed. Then next we have in the tubular secretion, mainly the potassium ions or certain drugs like penicillin, they are passed into the distal convoluted tubule and help in the formation of urine. Now in this, what happens is, the distal convoluted tubule, the walls of the distal convoluted tubule, these walls, they secrete potassium ions and certain chemicals which help in the formation of urine. So when the urine is collected here, the walls of the DCT, they secrete certain chemicals, potassium and the certain drugs like penicillin, and they help in the formation of the urine. Now the filtrate which is left, after the reabsorption, and tubular secretion, that is known as urine. After the reabsorption and the tubular secretion, the filtrate which is left, which is collected in the collecting duct, that is known as urine. Okay, now if you'll see the diagram, I am explaining you the steps. What happens in the glomerulus? The ultrafiltration takes place. The Bowman's capsule, it will receive the, after ultrafiltration, it will receive the glomerular filtrate. Then that glomerular filtrate passes to the PCT, that is the proximal convoluted tubule, and this proximal convoluted tubule, it will reabsorb water, glucose and sodium and chloride ions are also reabsorbed here. About 2/3 of water is reabsorbed in the PCT. Then after the reabsorption of water here, the filtrate then passes to the loop of Henle. In the loop of Henle, again some absorption of water takes place along with the sodium ions in the loop of Henle. And then the filtrate passes into the DCT, the distal convoluted tubule. And in the distal convoluted tubule, if still there are some chloride ions left and water is left, to maintain the concentration of the blood, the reabsorption of the water molecules takes place in the DCT, and also the walls of the DCT, they will release potassium and certain drugs which will then form a part of the urine when the after the filtrate passes into the collecting duct, that is known as urine. So then from the collecting duct, the urine goes is collected into the pelvis region, and from the pelvis region, the urine flows through the ureters and then to the urinary bladder. Now from the urinary bladder, the urine is passed out through the urethra by the relaxation of the sphincter muscles. I have already explained you in a previous diagram. So by those sphincter muscles help in the relaxation, and then the urine, under the impulse, nerve impulse, the urine passes out, and that process is known as micturition. Clear? Then certain abnormal constituents, if they are present in the urine, it can lead to certain diseases, like first is hematuria. In this case, there is presence of the blood cells in the urine. So the blood passes out with the urine. It can be due to the infection of urinary tract, or kidney stone is there, or any tumor is there. It can be because of that. Then next you have glycosuria, which is because of the presence of excess of glucose. If excess glucose is passed with the urine, then the disease is glycosuria, and it can be because of the diabetes mellitus, the person who are suffering from diabetes. Okay, then if albumin is present, in the urine, now it can be because of it is a, like, albumin is a protein. So because of the increased permeability of the Bowman capsule, due to some bacterial infection, the permeability of the Bowman's capsule has been increased. So it will allow the albumin also to pass along with the urine. So it can also lead to a disease. Then some of the bile pigments are passed along with it. Bile pigments are bilirubin, biliverdin. When these bile pigments are also passed along with the urine, it can lead to disease like anemia, hepatitis, which is a jaundice, or it can be liver cirrhosis. So this is because of the liver cirrhosis can be due to large intake of alcohol, bad drinking habits. So those can lead to diseases like jaundice and liver cirrhosis, and excess of the pigments will pass along with the urine. There are other diseases like gout and kidney stones. In these, the uric acid, which is a nitrogenous waste, it is relatively less soluble in water, so they crystallize and they form stones. Now when the excessive uric acid and certain salts like calcium oxalate, they crystallize and they form stones, and these are because of the kidneys are not functioning properly. If the kidneys are functioning properly, the excess of salts will not get deposited inside the body. And if there is a deposition of uric acid in the joints, that leads to a disease called gout. Now a hormone released by the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland, which is known as ADH, the antidiuretic hormone, it plays a role. It controls the concentration of urine by the water reabsorption. So if the ADH secretion is reduced, there will be increased production of urine. And this increased production of urine, that is known as diuresis. And in your endocrine system chapter also, you have studied about diuretics, the substances which increase the formation of urine, like tea, coffee, alcohol, all these are known as diuretics. So if the ADH secretion is reduced, it will lead to the increased production of the urine. Then the reabsorption of water is not taking place properly, and the production of urine increases. And then frequently a question is asked that why we urinate fewer times in summer and then in winter, and the urine pass is generally thicker. The reason is that in summers the loss of water takes place through perspiration, through sweating also, and the kidneys, they have to reabsorb more water from the urine and making it concentrated. Otherwise in the winters, the sweating or the perspiration is less. So in the summers, usually we have to hydrate ourselves by drinking a lot of water. So that's all. Then we have the artificial kidney. Artificial kidney is that if one kidney is damaged or removed for some reason, if it is not functioning properly, and still a person can lead a normal life. But if both the kidneys are not working, it leads to death. So artificial kidney is basically the dialysis which is taking place. Now what is dialysis? In dialysis, the patient's blood is led through the radial artery in his arm to the machine. So in the machine where the filtration will take place, where the excess of urea and salts are removed and the blood is purified, and that purified blood is returned to the vein in the same arm, and then the process is repeated again, sometimes twice a week, or it depends upon how much the kidneys are functional. So permanent damage to the kidneys can lead to the death. If some portion of the kidneys is not functional, only that time the dialysis can help, and it is just a machine which is helping in the filtration of the blood, and the excess of urea and salts are removed during the purification of the blood.